Hello, sibling.
Hello, hello. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. And welcome everybody to Sibling Nerdery. I'm Tom Cunningham.
I am Tony Cunningham.
And we are brother and sister doing things. Talking about nerd things and talking about, I guess, nerd things of a bunch of different capacities and varieties, because we're not just talking about MCU. We're not just talking about Ted Lasso and Apple Plus. We are also talking about Great British Bake Off, which is back.
Ooh, I'm very, very excited about this.
Or I guess we should say, ooh, ooh.
No.
Since it is
That was
very
ridiculous.
British and
Ridiculous.
Look, I have to say, it is so nice to have the Great British Bake Off back in my life. It is so nice to see a competition that is based on culinary talent and dogs walking through not completely closed doors.
So I don't close the door in here anymore. She busts through every time.
I really like Great British Bake Off. What I did not like so much was the cold open. How did you feel about this year's cold open?
I still don't understand what the purpose of it was. There was no purpose. Clue. I was like, are they going to be doing like a day on like American Western cooking or something? But like it didn't make any sense to me.
And for those of you who have not yet seen it, literally they start off with the Billy Ray Cyrus song, Achy Breaky Heart. And Paul Hollywood is dressed up with a full mullet wig.
Well, they all are. They're all in full mullet wigs.
That's true. Even our bald drummer co-host.
Drummer and Prue with a mustache.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked to me like Paul Hollywood had probably gained like 20, 30 COVID pounds. But when we got into the actual show, he didn't look nearly as chunky. So that was just bad, I guess, art direction / costume and wardrobe. But I just don't understand how Achy Breaky Tart has
it didn't
any
make
relevance
sense.
20 years after the fact. And I just didn't understand it. And I usually do like the cold opens. This one, and it was so long.
It was. They did like almost the whole song, I feel like.
They really almost did the whole song. I couldn't believe it. This is a spoiler show. How did you feel about the final disposition? I have to say, I wasn't exactly sure that the guy who got the boot was going to be the guy who got the boot.
Well, there was like two others that could have easily also gone home.
Right.
And I feel like one of them, even though I liked him a lot, the guy from Greece, I was like, ooh, I don't know that he should. I think it was very close for him to have gone home.
Well, and he certainly thought he could have, and that backgammon board was
horrible,
not jamming.
And so were his Swiss rolls.
But he did have a gravity-defying element, even though it was kind of lame and tacked on, whereas the guy that they ultimately sent home, and the other guy I think you're referring to, who did that horrible, big, ginormous Swiss roll with literally no gravity on it as well. He was my pick for the other person who possibly could have gone home.
Yeah.
But I love the tent. I love Prue and her lusciousness over boozy thing. Ooh, I love the booze. This is quite boozy. It's boozy. I love everything about how this show operates. Although I have to say, I'm not as big a fan of the other co-host that they introduced, like 2-3 seasons ago from Little Britain. I don't. The bald guy.
Oh, got you. Yeah, so one season ago. I think this is only his second season, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't like him.
I don't mind him, but he doesn't have the same energy. Like, it's a different energy.
It is.
Like, and I really like Noel Fielding, and I've grown to really like him.
He's
but
fine.
I didn't like Noel at the first either, because I liked the two women that were the original hosts.
But I liked Noel,
and their energy was
co-host.
Really. I did too, but their energy, the two women, was so specific, and they did it for so long that when Noel took over with Sandy, it was like the energy was just so different that I was like, this feels off. And so it took me a while to like them. And then when Sandy left and this guy came in, I was like, it's just a lot of
It's a lot of changing. And
Yeah.
I have to say, I prefer Prue to Mary Berry anyway. I just like
I do too. I'm not really a fan of Mary
vibe.
Berry.
Yeah. But I mean, this was an episode that showed us a malt loaf, which that did not look appealing to me. I mean, it seemed like a quick bread, although it took a really long time to cook for a quick bread.
Yeah.
And that seemed like a very, very, very specific British flavor with prunes and malt syrup.
It reminded me of like a fruit cake, but like with less
that's
fruit.
but they eat it with butter and butter that they churned
Right.
themselves. I mean, well, albeit with mixers. And so I thought that was a pretty cool touch. I thought the signature Swiss, I'm not a big Swiss roll person. I understand that there's a lot of challenge to it. I did think that the people who did best in the Swiss roll evaluation did create some really masterful little pieces of deliciousness. But it was not, all in all, I thought to put a gravity defying showstopper in the very first episode was a bit much.
That was ambitious.
And they weren't really great gravity defying showstoppers. I mean, there were a whole lot of things being poured onto things.
The woman who did the flowers, the flowers.
Oh, the flowers, yeah.
Those
the flowers
were really
incredible.
Cool. The apple could have been cool, but she didn't finish it well enough.
Yeah, it didn't. But at least it was a cleverer implementation of gravity. I can see that bouquet was stunning.
That was gorgeous. Yeah, I was like, that's cool.
Was stunning. And so I really did enjoy it. So thank you, Great British Bake Off. What is it? 9 more episodes?
Do you have any favorites yet?
I do like Bouquet Girl.
I like her too.
I like the young one too. The young one.
Yeah,
who also did very well.
And she's doing a lot of she's doing vegan baking.
Vegan stuff, which I mean, it remains to be seen if she's going to be able to hold on to that kind of culinary vibe through the whole season, because that's always tough, is when you start getting into flavors. And if you're vegan, that means no buttercream. It just seems like there's no way she's not going to be able to actually use butter.
Well, when she gets to pastries, you have to use butter.
You have to use butter. So it was a neat kind of side journey for her to venture into vegan, and I'll take their word for it that it was delicious. It was interesting to I like the Italian guy.
He's my favorite so far.
Because of the flavors. And I'm holding out hope for Sister Girl.
So here's the thing, I am too, but there's been how many seasons now? 9 seasons, 10 seasons, something like that. And there's only been 2 seasons in which a Black person has gotten past the 3rd or 4th episode.
Really?
So you've got, there may be 3. There's Liam. Right. There's I forget the other guy's name. He was the quiet, strong dude in one of the earlier
the big
episodes.
Dude. Yeah, he came back for a Christmas episode. I mean, a Christmas.
And then on that same season, there was a woman. They were friends. And and then there's one other one. I forget her name, but there was another woman that made it. She's the only one I think that's made it to the finals.
Well,
Kimberly. I think it was Kimberly. I think Kimberly was her name.
Yeah, that sounds right. I will say, I don't think. I don't know if the Grease dude has any any cacao in his wood pile, but I don't think he nor the other person of color, the other man of color,
the Trinidadian.
I don't see him staying on particularly long. But I've got 4 or 5 people I feel. I actually also like the older contestant who
the woman.
Yeah, just because I like a good old fashioned baker.
She bothered the living shit out of me the entire episode. I was like in my core, I was just oh, something was just grating at me about her. I didn't like her at all.
Well, she got high marks on Swiss roll, and she
she's good.
Right.
She's good. I didn't say she wasn't good. I just don't like her.
Yeah. I just didn't find her inoffensive enough. And I know that Prue is I almost wish she would be off the show so Paul Hollywood could stop talking trash.
I think it's all of the
Oh yeah, maybe. Okay.
I was like, shh.
Did you think Paul Hollywood was gonna offer a handshake to Bouquet Girl?
At first, I thought he was going to, and I was like, I hope he doesn't, because there have been a couple of seasons where he's just started handing him out left and right really early on, and they don't mean anything at that point.
Right.
So I thought he was going to, and I think he thought he was going to.
It really looked like he was.
Probably it's either he did and they cut it, or the producers were like, Paul,
nah, right. Don't.
You can't hand out handshakes until at least episode like 3 or 4. Like, I think it's one of those things.
Well, it was a stupid. The thing I really, really liked about the bouquet, and I'm glad that she won. I mean, was that it was a different take on Gravity Defying.
Yeah.
And her icing work was so
spectacular.
Beautiful. And I mean, she was the other girl, the youngest contestant, also did very good work, but for something that was predicated on, and her clever name for the bouquet cake, the bouquet.
Oh.
I just liked everything about it. So yeah, we'll see. This is one of those shows where I hate that I can't binge it. Because I could definitely watch over the course of 2 nights. I could watch all of these episodes, but
well, that's why I did. Like Nailed It came out.
Right.
And I watched all of Nailed It in one day. I was like, today is my day to just sit here and watch Netflix. So I watched.
So are we gonna talk about Nailed It? We can. We can go from Great British Bake Off to Nailed It.
Yeah.
I love this show. And the Big Frida episode, I'm sorry.
It's one of my favorite episodes I think that's ever been on Nailed It, because they were just so silly together. And it was such hilarious.
An odd way to twerk. I was everything about this show is just really great. Jacques Flores, which is awesome. Wayne Brady in a cameo as a judge this season. Big Frida, and Big Frida was brutally honest.
I know, but I loved it. It was so great.
It was so great.
And her reactions are so like understated, but so intense that it's like the perfect combination of hilarity. Like, yeah.
And her hair and her outfit and the squinting contestant, and Big Frida was like, she's just squinching trying to look at the recipes. And I was like, sister, because sister was a disaster. That wasn't the Big Frida episode.
Which one? Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure which one you're talking about.
It was, I think she was in the very first episode, because she says, I usually follow the recipe, but 8 eggs seems like too much. So she just put half the eggs. It's like, girl, what? Like,
just follow the recipe. It's the most simple. It's the simplest way to get past on this show. Just follow the recipe.
Just follow the recipe, and you were struggling enough anyway.
That's too
and
funny.
Then to just not have the eggs, girl. You're gonna have the eggs in a recipe for real?
Who was it? Was it Wayne Brady? Somebody was like, oh, no. It was the woman from Grace and Frankie. She plays one of the daughters, and I can't remember her real name, but I really like her. But she was like, wait, I actually have to eat this? Like, she was not there for it.
Well, when Wayne Brady found the hair on his plate? And okay, so you can help me out, because maybe you know better than I do. Was that a celebrity episode where Jack?
No, it was just him randomly with two other random people.
To be right. And I was like, are these social media influencers or something? Like, how did he just get on this show?
I think they might have had, because I think one of them worked in industry, but she wasn't like an actor or a director or anything like that. I think she might have been like crew or something. So there was an industry person, him. And then I think it was somebody that like owned a bakery but was really bad at baking or something. I don't know, but it wasn't a celebrity episode. No.
Some of these recipes seem like for instance, the shortbread cookie challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even the melting chocolate challenge. Like, how difficult is it to melt chocolate and pour it into a mold? And
was just like, they were like, the woman tried to put metal in the microwave, and they were like, don't put that in the microwave.
And Sister Girl actually won that challenge because, even though her face was kind of a mess, she followed directions and the chocolate
and it
worked.
Tasted okay. Yeah.
And it tasted okay because she put the right amount of flavoring and all that. I just don't understand. I mean, I get that the technical part of building some of those incredible second challenges is beyond the capacity of anybody but a master chef with a team. But you can't even get the recipe right. You can't take the cakes out of a pan before you put them in the blast freezer. Like,
just common logic, common sense and logic.
I would love to be on
by
that
the
show.
wayside. I would too. It would be fun.
I would.
Although,
oh my gosh, we should go together.
Enough, but we can bake enough though that they probably wouldn't cast us because we would actually have decent food.
Well, but I mean, those challenges are tough.
Because I can bake. That's something that I can do. Right.
So, but I'm saying, sibling, we have to make that happen. We have nailed it. I mean, I know they've already had a pairs
episode,
season, but maybe we can just go against one another. We can say, look, here's the thing. We are podcasters. We are siblings. We are bakers. We need to be on this show. Please make it happen, Nicole.
We'll send in one of our, or we'll just tag Nicole in the Insta or the Twitter of this live feed.
Of this episode. We love you, Nicole. Please cast us for season 9 or 7 or whatever. Please. We love Nailed It. We are super aficionados. We know the whole show. With. And I love that Mick Breyer, that's his name, Jack
McBriar. Yeah.
I love how he did a whisk. Whisk. That was great. This show it makes me so happy to be in a place where I can enjoy food shows and
just silliness.
Speaking of exuberance and joy, we have behind us Party Thor.
Party Thor!
This episode of What If Party Thor! And this was a return to a more of a lighthearted tone.
I really enjoyed this one. This one was fun. It was just fun.
It was fun. Tons of Easter eggs, tons of cameos. Jeff Goldblum riding off on a little scooter with Topaz. I mean, just exuberance. And we got so many people from the interstellar part of the MCU brought to Earth because apparently Thor is just like that dude who throws the raging keggers
the parties,
on planets. And we got some actual kind of love interest development and consummation. The first on-screen consummation of any sort of sexual tension out of a What If and out of a whole bunch, frankly, of the MCU films. So it was nice. And having most of the principals come back to do their voices, except for notably Brie Larson.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out who did hers, but I'm not. I think there's tension between Brie and Marvel, so I'm not too surprised by that.
I know they're in pre-production for the
Marvel
family Marvels, and so I'd like to chalk it up to that. But when so many other people come back.
Yeah, because almost everybody voiced their own. I mean, Sam Jackson came back for like 2 lines.
Yeah, and Maria, not Maria Hill, Colby Smulders came back for Maria. I mean, there were some people, but they were mostly minor. But for Jeff Goldblum to come back, and of course Chris Hemsworth, and of course Tom Hiddleston, and Phil Coulson came back, and it just struck me as kind of an odd choice for an episode that featured her character as prominently as it did.
Yeah.
I mean, she was basically second billing. It was Thor versus Captain Marvel throughout the whole show. Yeah. And whereas I understand why Tony Stark didn't come back for the Killmonger episode, and they cast a guy who did a very good RDJ as Tony Stark impression for the relatively short amount of time that he was in the episode. But this was literally Captain Marvel fighting Thor for 20 minutes. And for her not to come back, it was just kind of surprising. It was more surprising in a way than Chris Evans not coming back to reprise his role in the Captain Carter episode, because even though
Chris Evans had publicly said, like, I'm done. He had publicly been like, I'm not doing any more Captain America stuff. We'll see if he comes back, though. People are rumoring for an appearance in CA4. But he did publicly state it, so that made it less surprising that he was not in What If, is what I'm saying.
I mean, let's be clear. Aside from Knives Out, Chris Evans hasn't exactly had a brilliant and profitable post MCU career.
He did an entire show on Apple Plus that was fantastic.
What show is that?
Chase something Jacob.
The defending Jacob. The legal thing, defending
Jacob. Yeah.
Okay, I guess I was talking more on the big screen.
I don't think that necessarily matters anymore, though. People are doing small screen stuff, and I feel like
sure, but Apple Plus is not Netflix in terms of reach. Apple Plus is not Amazon in terms of reach. And I'm just saying there's a whole bunch of big budget projects on Apple Plus that have like C got a second season, and that's Jason Momoa and a star-studded cast, lots of people. But I think if you ask people what the big show is on Apple Plus, probably Ted Lasso is the one that's getting...
No, I understand that, but the point of what we're talking about is whether or not Chris Evans is coming back and doing this stuff. And Chris Evans has publicly stated he doesn't want to continue doing big, huge stuff like this anymore. So it makes sense that he didn't come back for What If. And it wasn't like, no, he's not doing well for himself. Like, no, he's doing the things that he wants to do. So
I guess a 30-minute episode of What If where he has 10 minutes of screen time doesn't strike me as the same sort of commitment as being on camera as Captain America, is all I'm saying. I get it that he says he doesn't want to do it, but of course, as you said, the rumor is he wants $100 million to come back. So, I mean, you either want to do big budget movies or you don't. And so whatever the motivation is.
Right, but he wasn't going to be getting $100 million to do 5 minutes on What If, though. And that's probably the difference. Yeah.
No, of course. But the point is that none of the people who came back for What If got a payday. It was all about doing something for the fans and doing, if you have a future in the MCU, for sure, doing something that helps to set you up, because the multiverse has opened a lot of doors, and it's opened the doors for another Tony Stark appearance. Frankly, it's opened the doors, as you said, for Chris Evans in another past appearance, maybe in a Captain Carter episode. It's opened the doors to almost anything. And to see that some of these folks who very easily in an afternoon could knock it out are choosing not to do that, it just seems odd to me. It just feels odd to me. This is certainly the franchise that escalated his marketplace value exponentially. And so it just seems like it wouldn't have been the most difficult thing in the world for him to come back and reprise kind of that role.
Yeah, but no, okay. I don't think it's difficult either. I'm just saying we disagree. You were surprised. I am not. That's it.
Right. So let's talk back about Party Thor. What was your favorite cameo on this episode?
Would you consider Loki a cameo in this? I mean, he had more than a cameo role, but I really like him a cameo
because this title was "What If Thor Was a Single child or whatever," and so Loki was a big only child. Loki was a big part of that, so I wouldn't consider him a cameo per se. But
I don't know.
And you didn't like him.
No, I did like him in this. I liked Loki in this one. Maybe Drax. Drax was funny. His little 2 lines was entertaining. And Howard the Duck is always fun when he pops up.
Yeah. What about Howard the Duck and Darcy? Darcy Duck.
Darcy was fun. I like Darcy, but she didn't stand out to me in this episode.
I thought her vocal performance was one of the most clearly, unambiguously identifiable.
Right. Well, this is her voice. It's her voice. Yeah, but she's got a very specific voice. Yeah.
And so there was no question. Like when I heard Colby as
that's her voice too. Yeah.
It is. But I was like, is this Maria
See, I was
Hill?
fine. I knew it. Like, I actually went back because I didn't pay attention at the beginning to see who was voicing. I was looking at my phone or something. So after I finished it, I went back to see who the voices were. But the first time I watched it, before I went back, I was like, I know that's Hemsworth. I know it's Hiddleston. I know it's Colby, and I know it's Kat Dennings. I wasn't sure about Natalie Portman. So yeah, that was one I wasn't positive about. And I wasn't, and I was sure it was Sam Jackson. Right. I was like, at first I was like, well, that's Jeff Goldblum, but also people know how to do his voice. So I wasn't positive it was him and not somebody just doing him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. Colby was one that I wasn't sure. I was sure of Sam Jack. I was sure of Hemsworth and Hiddleston. I was sure of Dennings. I wasn't sure about Natalie Portman. I wasn't sure about Brie Larson because again, it's not like Brie Larson's voice is so Brie's iconic. Voice. Exactly. Right. So it was I don't know Brie's voice, and I don't know her. And But when I saw that it wasn't, and I saw kind of the other people that had kind of been recruited to do other voices, I was like, oh, okay.
I'll say, like, Colby Smulders, though, like, maybe that's an easy one for people not to know, but, like, I was a massive How I Met Your Mother fan, and I own them all on DVD. So, like, her voice is in my head. So for me, that one was pretty simple. But yeah, Brie Larson, I haven't seen enough stuff. I mean, I've seen some of her stuff, but I haven't seen enough stuff of hers as often to know that that would or would not have been her voice.
And even to the extent that the voice of Surtur, Clancy Brown, that was the original actor from Ragnarok. I mean, they pulled some deep cuts in that I really did appreciate in terms of the effort that they have done, even throughout the whole What If series, to make sure that
Zachary Levi, his character was in this, but I don't think he actually voiced. I don't think he voiced it. Yeah.
No, Zachary definitely didn't, and I'm not sure about Hogan and Volstagg, just because they've really only been in the 2 movies. But I know that it wasn't Zachary Levi. I looked for that one.
Yeah.
But it was some of the other things that I liked how when they were punching each other over the globe, the names of the countries were written on
that was fun.
The countries. Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, I like the Stonehenge bit. That was fun.
Yeah, Stonehenge was good.
Yeah,
Stonehenge was
that
good.
was a fun bit.
So I liked this, and the What If people just can't seem to just give us an episode where we can just be happy. Everything has to include something at the very end just to make sure that there's that moment of dread. And the character that I have dubbed Voltron, because it's Vision in the Ultron kind of armor with the Infinity Stones. It was like, okay, so here we go into the final 2 episodes, and what we have seen is that Gamora has been shown wielding Thanos' double sword,
right?
And then we have also seen that Voltron has the Infinity Stone. So I'm not sure how it's all going to tie together, but if Gamora isn't in the next episode, then it seems like maybe these last 3 episodes are the most closely kind of sequentially tied in the whole series, where it's Party Thor goes into either Voltron or Gamora, and then it ends with an Infinity Stone kind of thing. Although it has been offered that maybe Kang is going to make a final appearance, because they're dealing with multiversal threads and everything. So maybe Jonathan Majors will voice Kang.
I will
maybe
say
with a more Kangy appearance.
I'd like to see more of the Loki that was never adopted by Odin. That's an interesting character to me, and I really enjoyed him in this episode. So that would be entertaining if they're able to bring him back at all. How many episodes is What If?
Well, there are 2 more episodes left.
That's it? Okay. So he probably won't be coming back.
Well, but I mean, next season. I mean, I know your dream episode is what if Loki and Bucky Barnes were half brothers, and it was the cask of Ancient Winter Soldier. That would be like the ultimate fan service for you.
It would be. That would be entertaining. I don't know how they would make that work. But yeah, you never see Loki and Bucky interact. But that would be kind of funny to me. I also really love seeing Loki and Valkyrie interact. I'd love more Loki Valkyrie interactions. Those would be fun.
Well, I think, again, we have confirmed a 2nd season of Loki. It stands to reason that Loki, in comic book parlance, there were mini-series events. So these were multiple issue story arcs, many of which crossed a bunch of titles. So if there was an Avengers multi-issue story arc, chances are in the maxi series event or mini series event, the individual issues of Thor and the individual issues of Hulk and the individual issues of, call it Doctor Strange or Black Panther, would also tie into what was happening in the main continuity of the Avengers, 3 or 4 issues. Each of those other issues would be interspersed and made a part of the story. So
right.
it's possible to me that Loki in his episodes will be kind of a bridging mechanism that will explore some of the consequences that emerge in Multiverse of Madness, or Quantum Mania. If Loki's production isn't, I mean, it stands to reason it won't be wrapped by Multiverse of Madness, but certainly Quantum Mania is much later in the year or much later in the cycle. So it stands to reason that by the time Quantum Mania comes out, where Kang is confirmed as the big bad, that Loki could be a bridging thing that actually deals with some of the unraveling threads or some of the fallout from that film. So it'll be interesting to see. And then of course, maybe the second season of What If will wrap up some loose threads. I mean, we don't know, but that's my dream. I want to see more of the multiverse, and I want to see more stories that are really compelling and expanding the scope of the MCU.
I saw something last night that's not to do with What If, but is to do with MCU that I wanted to share, and I'm not sure exactly how to. I put the picture in here, but let's see how we can do this.
Put it in as an overlay so it'll cover us, and then we can talk about it.
Jacob Batalon.
Sam.
Have you seen him recently?
Is he a lot thinner or something? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
oh wow.
I was like, okay, so we're going there for Spider-Man 3. Like, what?
is he this small in Spider-Man 3, or is he his Spider-Man 1 and 2 size?
No, I know he's not his Spider-Man 1 and 2 size. I know he's smaller than that. I'm not sure if he's this much more fit than he was at the other two films. But yeah, I saw this last night and I was like, wait, what?
He doesn't have a shirt on. Look at him.
I know. So I was like, okay, good for you. Like, good job. But like, I'm interested now to see how that affects his character, if at all. It may not. But part of me wonders if he did this for the role or if he just did this for his lifestyle. So I'll be curious about that.
Kumail Nanjiani made a point of, Kumail. What did I say?
Is it Kumail Nanjiani. Mm-hmm.
Nanjiani made a point of talking about his workout transformation for Eternals and how he got completely shredded and all of this. And so I think it stands to reason when you're in a franchise and your size is not an essential part of your character. Like Vincent D'Onofrio can't go down to 190 pounds and still be Kingpin. Kingpin has to be a big, physically imposing character. And just like Luke Cage. So Mike Coulter, who was much smaller in The Good Wife, like I didn't know that he was on that show as a recurring character, but he was like, just a regular sized dude, and he completely loked up to be Luke Cage, and now he's somewhere in between that in his current series role in the show Evil. But where the size of the character is not important and you're getting money and you're on screen and you're making media appearances, it doesn't surprise me that you might consider taking a look at your physical appearance and doing what you can to change it up. I mean, I know it's kind of a mixed bag on the level of representation, but if he made the choice because he wanted to be healthier, certainly he seems more confident in his shirts off pictures. He's trying to be popular on the dating scene.
Popular.
So exactly. So I ain't mad at him. Go on. What's his name?
Jacob Batalon.
Batalon. Yeah. All right, Jacob Batalon. I do think I've seen like a little sequence from the last trailer of No Way Home, and I was like, he doesn't look quite as big as he used to.
I don't remember seeing him in the trailer. I'll have to rewatch it. And see.
Maybe I saw a production still or something. I seem to see something. When you showed me that picture, it jogged a memory of me saying he looks smaller than he has in previous. Not as small as what you just showed.
Sure,
but definitely smaller. So hey, Diesel.
I was gonna say Diesel's being more vocal today.
He is being more vocal today
than normal.
Yeah. Oh, okay. He's gonna be let back inside.
So I was gonna say this week, I know we don't really have a bunch of time to talk about Ted Lasso, but since we do typically touch on it, I wanted to at least introduce the concept of maybe the most, spoiler alert, amazing Rickroll ever. The entire episode is essentially Rickroll, which is the greatest thing I've ever seen. To the point that this morning I watched Rick Astley talk. He spoke to the Ted Lasso actors and creators and got teared up, and it's on his Twitter, it's just great. So anyway, that whole thing is awesome. But also the episode contained what may be my favorite joke of the entire series. So I don't know if everybody knows that Brett Goldstein is actually the guy who plays Roy, is also a podcast host.
I did not know that.
His podcast is actually a lot of fun. It's called what is it? Movies to Die To, or Movies to. Hold on a second. What is it? I'm going to look it up. Brett Goldstein movies.
Does he sound like that on the podcast, or is that a put on voice for the show?
He is much more soft spoken. like much more soft spoken. Like I could listen to him and fall asleep. Like he is super soft spoken. Yeah. And I don't know if you've heard the story about how he got the role.
Buried with.
Yeah, films to be buried with. I'm not sure if you saw the story of how he got the role or not, but he was like, I just thought I thought that Roy was part of me, and I put it on tape. But he's like, I know that nobody else sitting around that room writing thought that Roy was inside of me. So because I'm a soft-spoken guy who likes the Muppets, is essentially kind of what he said. And after listening to movies, the Muppets, yeah, he's like a Muppet fan. So I started listening to Movies to Be Buried With because I was curious about this dude, and I was like, I really like him. He's really sweet and soft-spoken, totally different from Roy. But the bass of the voice is the same. He just gruffs it up and makes it much louder. But there's a loss in this episode. So there's a funeral at this episode, and because his podcast is all about like what movies would you take to you if you died, and when his guests come on the show, he kills them gruesomely. Like he describes it piece by piece, like he's like, your body is in your casket, and it was left in the heat for too long, so it expanded and you explode, and there's blood and guts everywhere. It's like it's very gruesome, and he does it different one for every person that comes on. He's like, I'm sorry to tell you, but you died. This is how you died. This is how you're going to be buried. And then they have to go through and tell them which movies are the ones that represent them the best. But then also the last one is, if you could only take one movie with you, like it's heaven, and there's a movie night, and each person gets one movie. They get one movie night to tell everybody else, or show everybody else in heaven or hell, wherever you are, what your favorite movie is and why. So like, what is that movie? So that's kind of the concept of the podcast that he hosts. So anyway, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, I don't like the idea of one of my DVDs or Blu-rays being covered in my
in your blood and guts. Yeah,
I'd probably make it pretty sticky.
No, that's what he's like. He's like, there's just a mess everywhere, but there's one room, there's a spot that you could just fit, your DVD in, just for the DVD. Yeah. But anyway, hilarious. So I know him from that, like as an actual person, and so when his character has to deal with death, there's a little bit of crossover, which is really funny. And Keeley is having an issue with death. And I've been waiting to talk to somebody about it. So I'm just going to say it because I'm sick of waiting for people to watch this damn show. But so spoiler alert. No, you have to. You should have listened. You should have watched it. I told you.
Okay, go ahead. I have my headphones off. Just go ahead.
But Keeley's talking about like, how do you want? No, I want your reaction. If you're not going to listen, I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
Keeley's talking about how she wants to be buried. And she's like, there's a place if you find a biodegradable stack and they bury you. And then when your body decomposes, it nourishes the soil. And then it feeds a tree. And then the people that I love and know can eat the fruit that are bared from my tree. And Roy is like, that's disgusting. Like, why? Like, why would I want to eat
a mama apple
from your rotting corpse? Like, no. And she gets really mad and they get in a fight, and then they go to the funeral, and then he walks up to her and he takes a big bite of an apple and he's chewing it, and she's like, is that a fucking apple? We're at a funeral. He's like, yeah, tastes like dead people. And I fell out laughing. And I was like, I think that is my favorite fucking joke in the entire series.
It's the circle. The circle of dead people fruit brought back to life.
So hopefully we will catch up on 2 episodes of Ted Lasso if my brother can get up to speed next week.
I will get up to speed, I promise. This was a very, very challenging week for me, but I promise we will be lassoed. We will have another episode of What If. I know you probably don't care, but Carnage, which is officially tied into the Marvel universe, if not certainly the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. So the MCMV,
MCMVU,
the McMoo. I think that I have to see it. I did not like the first one, like at all. I think it's ridiculous to introduce the character of Venom without Venom being a foil to Spider-Man. There has been no Spider-Man in the first movie. I don't believe there's any Spider-Man in the second movie, although we have seen that the Vulture character has made an appearance in Morbius, which is another part of Sony's private little Spider-Verse. So there is some crossover-ness coming. It is interesting to note that Sony had originally thought of pushing Carnage back all the way into 2022. And then when they saw how Shang-Chi performed, and Shang-Chi actually has been able to maintain at the top of the charts because it really hasn't had any competition, they actually pushed the release up. Instead of pushing it back into 2022, it was not supposed to drop until October 15th, but they pushed it back up to October 1st, which creates an interesting conundrum because on October 8th, No Time to Die drops. And then on October 22nd, Dune drops. And I intend to see No Time to Die and Dune in theaters. I will probably see Carnage in a theater as well. So I'm gonna get some use out of my Stubbs A-list membership. Have you seen trailers for Cop Shop? Are you at all interested in that?
I haven't seen the trailer for it.
It's Gerard Butler and Frank Grillo, and I don't know
yet to say anything that interests me.
Well, it's a gritty cop drama. There is a Black protagonist cop, and to be clear, I've only seen the trailer once, and I can't even say for sure if the Black protagonist is male or female. I think it's a female cop, but apparently Gerard Butler is like an assassin, and Frank Grillo is an assassin, and they're locked in jail together, and a third assassin is coming to try to kill one of them because of a da-da-da-da-da. And so it just looks like a big, violent, shoot 'em up kind of mess. And so what better way to spend a Sunday than to see that? So I think I may sneak out the house and see that. Did you see Free Guy, by the way?
Not yet. I want to, but I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
I think it's coming out on video on demand, like right now. So I think you will. Yeah, I think you will absolutely love it. So please watch Free Guy, and we can talk about Free Guy and Double Lasso and another episode of Great British Bake Off. It is not the Great British Baking Show. It's Great British Bake Off. Get over yourselves, Americans.
I never know how to type it, because if we're looking at SEO, do we want Bake Off or do we want Baking Show? Where do we want our people to come from? Where is Google pulling from? So I never know how to type it, but I call it Bake Off.
Yeah.
Verbally, I call it Bake Off. Yeah.
We can do both for SEO. We just got very technical because my sister is a social media expert. So for those, search engine optimization is what she's talking about. Blah, 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 blah. All right.
Before we end, I want to say just one thing. Can we talk about the light source on me right now? Because it's brilliant. Great. No, that's what I'm saying. I think it's great.
You look stunning. So I have a weird kind of. I have a weird two-faced
kind of
coming from thing. Yeah, I got.
Because you just have it coming from one side. Yeah.
Well, I have a window and I have a lights. I don't have my ring light right behind my laptop, which is what I should have. But you look amazing, Sibling.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you for saying it.
And shout out to Detroit Derby Girls. My sister is representing Detroit Derby Girls. Glamazon.
Former, retired, but good still.
Glamazons never die.
You're funny. Alrighty, so I guess next week, as we said, Double, Lasso, and hopefully Free Guy. And of course, what if as well.
That's right. Follow us on @Sibling Nerdlery on Twitter and
at Nerdlery on Twitter.
Oh, @Nerdlery. Sorry. @Nerdlery on Twitter and on Facebook and YouTube and the things. We love you, Nerdles, and we can't wait to talk to you again. So I'm Tom Cunningham.
I'm Tony Cunningham. I can't make a right heart. What the hell? Yeah, I'm trying. I'm failing. Yep. It's a ciao.
Ciao. Oh, you don't. What's your foreign language goodbye for this week?
Literally, I think it's ciao or arrivederci or yeah. Adios.
Dos vidania.
Dos vidania.
Bye.